This assignment is on the notion of embellishing tones. In one way, embellishing tones are very simple. You've probably met them before. You've heard of passing notes, auxiliary notes, and so on. But they lay the foundation for a very important set of concepts for advanced harmonic analysis that some of you will be doing later on in the semester. And they are also the thing that connect real music, as it were, the music of the tonal period of Bach, of Haydn, Beethoven, Chopin, with the sorts of theoretical exercises that we usually encounter in theory classes. So they are quite important, but we'll start with this very simplest concepts. Have a listen to this piece, which is the second movement of Mozart's Piano Sonata in C major, KV 545. Just play the opening. So it's a gorgeous melody that Mozart has written over a very simple harmonic background. And when we look at the melody in detail, we'll find most of the notes, many of the notes at least, certainly some of the important notes, are consonant with the harmonic background, but some don't belong to the harmony whatsoever. I'll give you a very simple example. If you look at the harmony of this bar, it's all chord 5 of G major. It's a D major 7th chord in second inversion. There's A in the bass, D, C. So it's a D7 chord with A in the bass. All of the notes in the melody at this point belong to the underlying chord except this one. That B is not a note that belongs to the harmony. In fact, what it does is fill in the gap between two other notes that do belong to the D7 chord, the C and the A. Melodic tones, melodic notes that embellish the underlying structure of the harmonically derived melody by passing between two different notes of the underlying chord are known as passing notes, and we can label them with a P. There are more passing notes up here. The harmony here is actually quite interesting, and I won't go into it in too much detail now, although you'll meet this piece again later on. Just for the purpose of this exercise, I'll just point out that the underlying harmony that we're interested in, the notes that belong to the chord, are the G, the E, and the C sharp, and therefore the F sharp and the D are both passing notes again. Called passing notes because they pass between two different harmonic notes. Very similar to passing notes, but getting a slightly different notation, are what are called auxiliary notes or neighbor notes. English call them auxiliary notes. The Americans call them neighbor notes. I'll call them neighbor notes just because it's convenient, for reasons you'll discover in a little while, to annotate them with the symbol N. An auxiliary note or a neighbor note is like a passing note. It doesn't belong to the underlying harmony, but rather than step between two different notes of the chord, it actually just steps one step away from a single underlying note. So here, this G belongs to the chord. The A doesn't belong to the chord, it just steps away, then back. We can find another example of a neighbor note right in the first bar. Again here, if you have a look at the chord, it's just the same as we met in the first example. It's a D7 chord, and in the melody we have a D and a C, but the B again does not belong to it. It's just the same actually as here, except that instead of stepping between two notes of the underlying chord, it steps away from and then back to an underlying note, so it's a neighbor note.